of our lane, and with the anniversary of 9/11, I've decided to give you a video that I made a couple of years ago. It's very interesting, considering the fact that we're debating whether to take military action against Syria, that the remembrances or ceremonies, the build-up to such, if there are any, which I would imagine there are, to the anniversary of 9/11 has been somewhat muted up to this point. We've been busy talking about other things, and I wonder if that's by design. I think it's very important for us to realize, in retrospect, that we have overreacted to 9/11, and it has cost all of us very dearly. I wish to also say that in this video I'm mentioning certain links to do the research on the conspiracy of 9/11 if you so desire to investigate, but there's enough of that material on the web. And without ado, here's my presentation from Good, the Bad, and the Deadline. (2001). For me, I was at work in Delray Beach, Florida, when the towers were hit. It was not until days later that we were told that some of the hijackers had been living less than a mile away in an apartment and had been among us in the weeks and months prior. In this segment, I shall share some thoughts with you about this event, with focus on confronting the 9/11 truth movement. An issue that has always come up is, are we safer? This, I think, is a relative term. There is always risk, and it is how we manage risk. The airline security procedures of the time clearly exposed vulnerabilities that could have been eliminated. Did we overreact to 9/11? Al-Qaeda, we have found, is simply not that deadly a threat. With a moderate sweep of our hand, we have seriously crippled, if not mostly destroyed them. And yet we have spent trillions of dollars, sent armies across this world, and compromised rights here at home. Instead, Al-Qaeda has inspired local jihadists that have been unable to attack high-value targets. How have things changed? 33 new buildings have been built in Washington for Intel alone, equivalent to the square feet of 3 Pentagons. 63 organizations have been created or reconfigured to fight the war on terror. We owed the Chinese 78 we owe. For some of us, has been like a movie script, fiction that was never supposed to become fact. Before I talk about conspiracies, here is some background provided by the responders and engineers on construction and firefighting at the World Trade Center site.
Retired FDNY Fire Chief John Norman is an expert on fighting high-rise fires. We met on the sidewalk in front of 90 West. Built in 1907, it is now an apartment building. Norman still marvels at how well it endured the conflagration 10 years ago.
This building had one steel beam that was affected by heat. It dropped a total of 1.5 inches. And that was a horizontal column, so it was not a critical load-bearing member. The entire structural skeleton remained fine, and it's, as you see, still in use today.
One beam sagged? That's it?
One beam.
90 West survived 9/11 because skyscrapers of that vintage were built like fortresses.
Everything was reinforced. You had a heavy structural steel skeleton, much like the towers, but these were protected with poured concrete or terracotta block tile, which gives tremendous resistance to fire. It's basically a redundant system of protection.
Of course, skyscraper design and construction has evolved over the years. The newer glass skyscrapers are half as heavy per square foot as the old concrete fortresses.
Is it possible to do both? To build the gleaming glass towers and put enough technology in them to make them as safe as this building?
The glass towers are a problem. The glass skin is a weak point. But you can build buildings that are structurally stable and can withstand the fire long enough to allow the fire department to suppress it without giving in to the pressures of the economy. Yes, that's possible.
The collapse of the Twin Towers served as a stark and stunning reminder to architects and engineers of the value of using concrete to protect skyscrapers from the ravages of fire.
So this is the reconstruction of the fires in the World Trade Center, aircraft impact, how the planes hit, what damage they did.
Structural engineer Charlie Thornton is a towering presence in the world of towering buildings. He has engineered many of the world's iconic buildings, including Petronas Towers in Malaysia, the tallest twin skyscrapers in the world. He helped write the detailed engineering report of how and why the World Trade Center towers collapsed, something no one, including him, ever imagined.
Okay. The planes knocked out maybe 15% of the vertical capacity of the building. If you look at the pictures, they knocked out about 35 columns, let's say on the north side of the north wall. A couple of inside columns, probably.
It was fire that brought the buildings down. But why? Skyscrapers have become real-life towering infernos on several occasions over the years, and none of them came even close to crumbling. The steel cores of the Twin Towers were covered in drywall rather than concrete, no match for the impact of the airliners.
Where the planes hit, that sheetrock was not strong enough to take that punching shear, which of course the concrete is.
As I approach the conspiracies, let me say that you should do the research yourself and make up your own mind. It is only fair. I will include links to help you with this. The truthers say that Building 7 was a controlled demolition. Building 7 was heavily damaged and fully involved in fire, and burned for a much longer time than the towers. Jet fuel burns at 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Not enough to melt steel, but you can weaken it substantially. And the towers were not demolished. The pancaking floors, unleashed by the weakened structure, doomed everyone inside and destroyed the towers. Demolition takes weeks of preparation. The fire and debris from the impact spread down the core, through the floors and the rest of the building, down to the lobbies. Pockets of the building burned at 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit because of burning debris inside and the concentration of heat. How could the wires and devices needed for controlled demolition survive that? The entire event was calculated to be equivalent to 1,000 tons of TNT exploding. That's right, 1 kiloton. Truthers have stated that no tail section or other plane parts were left behind after the strike at the Pentagon. These planes were going at 550 miles per hour plus. And in the case of the Pentagon, the building is built like a bunker. It is more reinforced than most of the buildings on this planet. It is no wonder that the hole was so small. In the Joplin tornado, an 800-pound safe was ripped from its foundations that were in concrete. It was thrown 600 feet, and its door was ripped off. If an EF5 tornado with 200-plus mile-an-hour winds can do that, it is not a stretch to conclude that the aircraft disintegrated on impact. If President Bush had carried out these attacks to put fear in the hearts of Americans in order to go to war, then why did he not try a similar attack later somewhere else? The best they could do was the color-coded alert system. How could such an incompetent public official mastermind such a thing? Look at the body of the work of the man. His presidency was a joke. It occurs to me that the truther movement is also riding the backs of people who wish to gain materially from this tragedy. Rudy Giuliani, sadly, is one of those people. We all needed his strength that day and after. But he has been on the lecture circuit making a lot of money. And his net worth today is much, much greater than it was in 2001. In researching this subject, I sought out David Lee Griffin, who has written 14 books on the 9/11 subject. 14 books! The man is a professional book writer. It is too much about profit. Conspiracy theories take hold because of an antipathy for a person, a corporation, an institution, or a government. When things become too complex, and it is apparent that too many people must participate in the conspiracy for it to work, then the conspiracy must be false. The engineers and firefighters in that previous video clip, I would wager, are not 9/11 truthers, because they have much more intimate knowledge of the events than we do. I agree with Noam Chomsky. He's an anarchist, I know. But he has stated if there was a conspiracy, it would have been leaked by now. People don't like reason. They would rather be emotional. Reason is cold, hard, and absolute. It cannot be adapted or mollified. Reason is not sexy. The basis of all of this can be summed up in a comment that I found on a BBC website. No. The real culprits with regard to 9/11 were incompetence at all levels of the United States government and turf wars within the USA security system, and I doubt that has changed either. Bullseye. This is The Good, the Bad, and the Deadline on LiveLeak. I'm Arnold Lane.